types of sewing machines. Right? Before we go ahead, a suggestion to you is you can watch all those videos that have been sent to you, and you can go through it at least 3 or 4 times to have a good hang of the components of the sewing machine, which should come handy sometime later in your life when you're working in organizations. It could be a retail brand, it could be pure marketing, or it could be just pure content development and things like that. May have nothing to do with machines, but at the end of the day, you as fashion students, you should definitely know those machines and how are the garments created, how are raw materials, fabrics, and other accessories brought together to create magic, which we call fashion and styling and other things. So if you do not know this, who else would know? Everyone expects that you should be knowing about it. So we come to slide number 20, types of sewing machines, and slide number 21. We are going to talk about the types of sewing machines. So we come to types of sewing machines, slide number 21. Each machine makes a basic running stitch the same way with 2 sources of thread. We are talking about the lock stitch machine. One is the needle thread, the other is the bobbin thread. The top needle takes the thread down into the fabric. It is caught and looped via the bobbin apparatus and then pulled back up. Feed dog moves the fabric along and the next stitch begins. Now this is the mechanism that is there, and the interesting part is that this mechanism has been the same since last 150 years. So the first lock stitch machine that was invented, it followed a particular process, and to this date we are following the same process in case of lock stitch machines. We're going to slide number 22. Types of sewing machines. So number 1 is mechanical sewing machine, number 2 is electronic sewing machine, and third is computerized sewing machines. Even if I were not to explain any of that, it would be clearly evident that the mechanical sewing machines are all those typical machines that you've seen at home years, decades back, where you had to actually move the hand wheel with the help of either the hand or the pedal, and which could run without electricity. The second is electronic sewing machine, which of course today, the ones which you see at home also, the Usha sewing machines or the single machines, which are now operated using electricity and has a lot of other features more than the mechanical sewing machine. Of course, computerized sewing machines are going to be one generation ahead, which would have a lot more options and which would enable you in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of accuracy also. So we'll talk about them in detail. We go to slide number 23. The mechanical sewing machine is the same photograph again for you, the old one, the original one that was made. It is controlled by a rotary wheel, and which in the photograph is on the extreme right top, and controlled by a rotary wheel. Any adjustment in tension or length, width of the stitch is made by moving a dial, those knobs that we had discussed. And these machines are very basic and these are inexpensive. Now, having said that, this black machine that you see, it is pure magic, and it does the same job as any expensive machine, just that it is run mechanically. Great for the rural India where you do not have much electricity happening at this point of time. And the best part is it is very cheap. So this would come for about 1,500 or 2,000 rupees. We go to slide number 24, electronic sewing machine. This looks very swanky and has a lot of those buttons over there with a digital meter there, and with the help of which you can make changes to the stitch length and the stitch width and different kinds of permutation and combination of zigzag or filling of the stitch area, etc., and make changes with the help of press of button. And then you're good to go. You can make all those kinds of stitches, some being functional, the other being aesthetic. So an electronic machine differs from a manual mechanical sewing machine in that there are some functions that can be accomplished by pushing a button. It has a number of motors for various duties, and it runs via electricity. And we go to slide number 25, computerized sewing machine. It has more number of motors. A computer coordinates different functions, and a repetitive sequence of stitches are programmed. So the movements don't have to be replicated over and over again. So I'll just give you one small example. Let's say a pocket in a men's shirt, patch pocket. The dimension of the pocket is such that you know that you need 30 stitches on the vertical edges of the pocket, and the horizontal edge has, let's say, 20 stitches. So in this computerized sewing machine, you can simply program a set of operations. So operation 1 is vertical, operation 2 is horizontal, operation 3 is vertical again. And your pocket has been patched to the shirt. So 1, 2, 3. 3 operations, 2 vertical and 1 horizontal. Now this can be programmed. So every time you put a patch pocket on the front of the shirt and you press a button, so it is going to run exactly the given number of stitches, which is 30. And when the operation comes to a halt, the needle is still pierced in the fabric. Now you have to turn the pocket so that now you can do the horizontal operation. So press another button and this horizontal operation will be done. Full speed, exact number of stitches, comes to a halt, needle still inside the fabric. Now you turn it around and now you have to do the vertical operation. You do the vertical operation, finished, 1, 2, 3. 3 operations finished. Now the needle is not going to stop inside the fabric. It is going to be outside in the air. Your operation has been completed. You can remove the parts and you can start with the next operation of attaching the next pocket to the next shirt. That is slide 25. We go to slide number 26. These two photographs, there can be, you can access tons of photographs of different types of computerized sewing machine. Most of them are related to stitch embroidery, different types of embroideries, etc., etc. So these are just two of the options that I've shown to you in slide number 26, computerized sewing machine. Some are digital, some are different knobs there, and you can and the serial number will be given to that. So in the digital panel, you can simply input the number referring to those list of stitch designs which are displayed. So you can simply input those numbers and then you can do the operation. So that's about the computerized sewing machine. Till date, we have not been able to computerize the entire sewing operation, but to various degrees of success, we have been able to computerize various difficult operations also. So we are in the process of computerizing all the operations. We move on to slide number 27, and that brings us to the third section of this PPT, this session, which is different bed types. Now, if you see in this illustration, the top part is the arm and the bottom base is the bed. And this entire set of arm and bed, this is mounted on a table. So this is the bed type, and there are different bed types that we are going to discuss. We'll move on to slide number 28. And the first and the most basic type is the flat bed. The ones that you have seen throughout your life and what you see in majority of cases in the institute also, single needle lock stitch machines, all of them are flat bed. And in the lock stitch as well as chain stitch, the flatbed model is used. It has a large working area, which allows a wide range of applications. Materials can easily be guided around the needle and the presser foot, and used for all kinds of flat sewing work. So whenever you have a flat sewing work, most of the garments have flat sewing work. So flatbed is used almost, I would say, 90 to 95% of the times. That's slide 28. And slide 29 shows you just one example of flatbed. This is something that you're seeing. This is what is mounted on the table. So the flat surface on which you can see the arm, that flat surface, below that you can see certain part which is not visible to the eye when this machine is mounted on a table. So this is pure machine, and once it is mounted on the table, it's good to go. You can sit on the chair and then you can start operating. So this is an example of a flatbed. We go to slide number 30. Slide number 30 talks about post bed. A post bed is a particular situation The type of stitch is again lock stitch and chain stitch, but this is something which are used when the object is a little stiff and it is of three-dimensional nature, like shoes or bags. So in case of shoes or bags, you can do the operations only on a machine which is of the type post bed. It has increased walking height and a vertical hook in a post. It's at a height, and it is used for shoes and bags. And this raised post helps to work on tight curves and corners. To sew in sleeves also, to sew sleeves also, it comes very handy, and to complete large half-assembled products. When you have large half-assembled products, it is already so large and clumsy, you will not be able to do the operations on a flat bed. So in that case, if there's a small area in which you have to do the operation, that small area just needs to be mounted on this post. You mount on it, and then you can do your operation with much more ease than you could have done in case of a flat bed. That's why post bed. That's slide 30. Slide 31 shows the actual picture of a post bed stitching machine. The stitching is happening at a particular height. The operation is pretty much the same as a normal machine, just that the stitching is happening at a particular height where the needle and all the other things are midway in this machine that we see. The base itself has been lifted. That's 31, and I have shared all the videos with you for all these machines. You can actually see the working of these machines and have a very good understanding of how it actually looks and how it actually operates, and how is the operation done on these machines. That's slide 31. We go to slide 32, which is two of them. These are expensive machines, cylinder bed and feed of arm bed. And normally small companies, firms, small operators, they don't use it because they're very expensive. And the kind of operations and the kind of stitches which can be done on this cylinder bed and feed of the arm bed cannot be done using flatbed machines. So lock stitch and chain stitch can be done, have increased working height and a horizontal arm-shaped bed. It has a horizontal arm-shaped bed. Special application is tubular parts, example cuffs, sleeves, trouser legs, also button sewing and bar tacking. And it's used extensively for knitted garments. So you can actually, if you want to make those denim trouser legs or formal trouser legs, etc., you want to do operations on these tubes, then this machine comes handy. And again, my explanation would not be as adequate as when you have also seen the video. So this is the feed of the arm machine where the operation, you can see the dotted arrow. The operation is happening, meaning to say that you are inserting the fabrics from the right. In this photograph, you are inserting the fabric from the right. The stitching is happening and the fabric is moving forward towards the left. This is the feed of the arm machine. This is also one machine which we have at in the fashion design department, NIF Patna. That's slide number 33. Go to slide number 34. This is a cylindrical bed. So if you see feed of the arm, it is slightly different from a cylindrical bed, which is just one arm. In case of feed of the arm, you have an L-shaped arm. In case of cylindrical bed, you just have straight arm. And in this case, the operation that you see is again from the left to the right, moving perpendicular to the arm. And from one side, you are inserting the fabric and it is going to go towards the, so from the right side, from your perspective, from your right side, you are going to insert the fabric, and towards the left, the operation will be done and the fabric will be pushed towards the left in case of a cylindrical bed. That brings us to the end of the slide 34, and we go to slide number 35. Slide number 35 is raised bed, very rarely used, and Stitch type is again lock stitch and chain stitch. Rarely used, mostly used by very specialized apparel manufacturers. And in this case, the bed is in the form of a plinth, as in the bed is not thin, it is thick. It has a particular height. So when it has a particular height, then it facilitates assembly of pre-sewn parts. The parts which have already been sewn, now you have to do further operation. So because of this raised height, you can lift those parts where you have to do the operation and do the operation. Now, so special application is fitting of accessories and special attachments, especially when the entire garment has been made and now you have to fit some accessory. So in that case, attaching the accessory on flat bed is a little inconvenient, and using the raised bed helps in doing the operation better. This is also the basic form for various specialized machines like buttonholers. We can see so I've shared the video of the buttonholers also with you, and the buttoning machine also, the button attaching machine. Both of them come under raised bed category. So we move on to slide number 36. This is one example of a raised bed, mostly used for knitted products and mostly used for doing operations on the neck or neck. It can be round neck or it can be crew neck. Imagine a t-shirt has already been made fully, and now you have to work on the neck area. How would you do it on a flat bed? So in case of a raised bed, you can actually hold the area where you need to do the operation and put that area to the needle area, and the rest of the garment is going to fall on the lower surface. So this raised bed is going to help you in doing that localized operation in semi-finished or complete garments. So we move on to slide number 37. Now in slide number 37, it is again an example of a raised bed, and one arm is jutting out, and this is a buttonhole machine. The video is shared with you. It's a beautiful video, and you can see how the buttonholes are made. And these are the most expensive pieces of machinery, much expensive than stitching machines. A buttonhole machine is 10 times more expensive than a normal stitching machine. Same for the button attaching machine. So this is slide 37, and then we have slide 38 again. Button sewing machine and buttonhole machine, the shape is pretty much the same, but then the operations are different. The buttonhole machine makes the button hole, and the button sewing machine actually attaches the button to the garment part. Again, button sewing machine is very expensive, somewhere in the tune of 2.5 to 2.75 lakhs, 3 lakhs also. So 95% of the factories in India, especially apparel exporters, you will not find these machines. We move on to slide number 39, which is the side bed. Side bed machine is very crucial for all kinds of overlock: 3-thread, 4-thread, 5-thread, 6-thread overlock. All these overlocks are done on the side bed. We can do chain stitch, we can do overedge stitch, which is again lock stitch. Machines which are specialized for sewing at edges need only a small working area. So that's why, because you are doing the operation only on one side of the garment part or the garment, so you just need a very small working area. So in this side bed, you will see on the left side, you just have a very small square shape area on which you have to place the edge of the garment or the garment part, and then you can do the operation on one side, and that operation is overlock. We move on to the next slide, which is slide number 40. This is the actual picture of a overlock machine. The small flat stainless steel area that you see, that is the only small area that is required to do the operation. And from one side, from your side, when you're looking at this machine, from your side, you have to supply the fabric and place it close to the needle area, and that is the point where you start feeding and the overlock is going to happen. So that brings us to the end of slide number 40. and which also brings us to the end of this third section of the session, which is types of different bed types. And then we go to slide number 41, which is automatic workstation. Now, automatic workstation is like we talked about the computerized machines. So these are automatic workstations. Those various operations which have been automated, which have been computerized to an extent. So we come to slide number 42, simple automatics, usually CAM controlled. Computer CAD and CAM. CAD is computer aided design and CAM is computer aided manufacturing. So CAM controlled is computer controlled. Now produces only one configuration of sewing. One configuration of sewing means if you're doing buttonholing, that machine can only do buttonholing. It cannot do anything else. Same for button sewers or Bartek machines or label sewers. Now, label sewing is there are machines we can just put the garment, put the label on it, and you start the machine and it's going to stitch the label to the garment. And it can be in square shape, or the labels can be rectangular or whatever shape. So our labels sewer can only sew labels, cannot start attaching buttons or making buttonholes. And operator only carries out the handling, both before and after sewing. Now, what we're saying here is, in case of simple automatics, is that the machine will do the entire job. The operator only has to place the material correctly, press a button, operation done, remove the garment, put next one, press again. So it's as simple as that. So in case of automatic machines, you don't need some great highly skilled labor. You just need a person who you have to explain. Just keep the two parts, part A like this, part B like this, press the button, operation done. Next, put part A, put part B, press the button, next. So that's simple automatics. We go to slide number 43. Automated workstations again continued, carries out complex functions, plus also carries out complex sewing, makes use of electronic and pneumatic control, and incorporates sophisticated conveyor and clamp technology. Now, this is something that you can search on the internet. You can read at least one paragraph about it, fairly simple to understand, but more important would be to actually watch videos, especially the examples that I have provided here, patch pocket setting on jeans and shirts. Now, patch pocket setting on jeans and shirt, I have provided the video of this to you. Then run stitching collars or flaps. This is something that you will have to do on your own. YouTube provides all of that. Long seam joining, making jetted pockets, surging trousers, and sequential buttonholing. All of this is available on the YouTube. Very interesting. One look at it, and you're going to remember it for the rest of your life. And then we go to slide number 44. Operator loads the machine, remove the garment part after sewing. Machine controls most of the handling and all of the sewing. Machine utilization is up to 80%. And each machine has one basic confirmation of sewing size or shape of, for example, collar, patch pocket can be ordered. Now, what we're saying here is, which is also rigid. Okay. Automated workstations, most of the work is done by the machine. And the operator does not have to do much. But what we're saying is that it can do only one thing. So if it can attach collar, it will only attach collar. If it can patch pocket, it can only patch pocket. The shapes can be changed, the size can be changed, whatever, but then it will just do one job. So that's one negative point of this. But then again, automated workstation is something that specialists would buy. So meaning to say, if we are talking about an Allen Solly or a Van Heusen or a Louis Philippe or an Arrow, which makes primarily they make shirts, then they are the ones who would want to buy automated workstations, like attaching a patch pocket or attaching of the collar. So these machines are very expensive, but then it works out very cheap for those people who are only doing this thing. And then we come to the second last slide, which is reprogrammable automated systems. And here, garment parts are loaded, and a series of machines carry out a series of operations to a section of a garment. Example, one system utilizes robotic handling to assemble a 3-part jeans pocket. requires, now this example that I have given, the video I have provided to you, in which you can see that a 3-part jeans pocket. So you put the back of the jeans and then you put the pocket on that, on a clamp, and the device takes it and attaches the pocket from the 3 sides and then releases it. That video is also provided today. And it requires extreme consistency of material characteristics and shape, and extreme reliability of operations by the machines in the line, and not yet in commercial use for clothing operations. These are such automated systems which very few organizations have, and very few in India, a little more in China and Japan, etc. But then, as of now, commercial use for clothing operations has not been in place. If this happens, that let's say even 50% of the garment can be done using robots and automated systems, that simply means 50% of the jobs in the garment manufacturing trade will be gone. So it might sound very fancy, and of course, it does make sense that everything is being computerized today, everything is being automated, machines are doing things. Even during times of COVID, Corona, you would want, even the manufacturers would want that most of the things can be done using machines, so that you don't have to pay salaries, you don't have to bother whether people are coming or not. You can simply operate the factory, at least half of the factory. So as these systems get automated, as these systems get computerized, it is bound to lead to a lot of job losses in the garment manufacturing trade, garment manufacturing industry. So that is one thought that I would like to leave you with. And that brings us to the end of this session. The suggestion to you is that if you have not seen the video as of now, please go through it. It will make far more sense. And if you've seen it one time, it's going to remain with you for the rest of your life. It's going to make you a more enabled person in terms of knowledge in garment trade. So whenever there are discussions happening in terms of production, in terms of efficiency and things like that, you would have at least 1 or 2 things to add to the discussion and come across as a more learned person. So with that, I would like to conclude the session